Welcome back, algebra students. We've just finished up a unit on solving systems of equations with elimination and substitution. I think we like the elimination method a little bit better. And now we're going to be moving on to a completely different unit on multiplying polynomials. And before we get into the polynomials, where it's a little bit more difficult and more terms, we're going to start with just monomials, singular terms. And before we start that, there's a couple properties of exponents that we need to remember. So let's get started with some of those properties of exponents. Before we get started, I want to remind you of a couple things. Let's say we have x squared. What does x squared mean? Well, that just means x times x. If you were going to do 5 squared, that just means 5 times 5. If you have x squared, it means x times x. Well, what if you have an x cubed? X cubed just means x times x times x. You're multiplying by itself 3 times. So just kind of understanding what those exponents mean. Knowing this, let's draw what is meant when we are multiplying 5x cubed, 5x to the 3rd power, times 6x to the 7th power. So we're going to draw it all out, and then we're going to come up with some shortcuts. So 5x cubed, what that means is 5 times x times x times x. That's the x to the 3rd part. We have 3 x's multiplied together. And we're going to multiply that by 6x to the 7th. So it's times 6 x to the 7th. Well, that's going to be 7 of these x's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now we have to multiply all of these together. So let's take the 5 times 6. So we can multiply those coefficients together. 5 times 6, that's just 30. And here's the important part about this lesson here. We have 3 x's here. And we had 7 x's here. How many total x's do you have when you multiply them all together? That's right, you've got 10 x's together. And how did you get that so quickly? By looking at this 3 and this 7. What could you do to those exponents in order to come up with this 10? You can just add them together. So when you are multiplying, what happens to the exponents is you just add them together. So that's an important property of exponents with the same base. If you're multiplying them together, you can just add the exponents when you simplify it. And the next bullet point there, even if you cannot see it, an x by itself has an exponent of 1. This is just x by itself. You're just multiplying it by x one time. So x is the same as x to the 1st. We just don't write the 1 up there. It's implied. You don't see it. But it does mean there's a 1 up there. All right. A couple examples here. It says multiply the following monomials. A monomial is a singular term. So 3x is a monomial. 9x is a monomial. And we're going to multiply these monomials together. Mono means 1. Now I bet binomial is going to be 2 terms. Trinomial is 3 terms. And we'll get into that later in the unit. So if I have 3x, what that means is 3 times x. And if I have 9x, what that means is 9 times x. So 3 times 9 is 27. And if I've got an x here and an x here, how many x's do you have? That's right, you've got 2. So it's 27x squared. Another way you could do that really quickly is this is x to the 1st, this is x to the 1st. If you add the 1 plus 1, you get a 2 for your exponent. For the next one, we have 5x times negative 4x squared. Let's just draw it out. We have 5 times x is 5x times negative 4x squared. So there's 2 more x's there. Take care of the numbers first. 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. And we've got an x here, and we've got 2 more x's here for a total of x cubed. So negative 20x cubed. And again, you can get that by doing 1 plus 2 is 3. And lastly, we have x cubed times 4x to the fourth. Well, here's x cubed. It's just 3x's multiplied together. Times 4x to the fourth. So times 4x to the fourth. And then we want to simplify this. So the only number I see is 4. Keep that as a 4. And we had 3x's here. And we had 4x's here. And when you multiply them all out, it's a grand total of 7x's multiplied together. So it's 4x to the 7th power. So you're going to go ahead and pause the video next, and then go ahead and try the next 3 on your own. When you're comfortable with those 3, unpause the video, come on back, and we are going to multiply monomials to a polynomial. Welcome back. Before we get started, I'm going to give you your password right now. Your password for this assignment will be Elliot with a capital E. That's my nephew's name. So E-L, just one L, I-O-T-T, capital E-L-I-O-T-T. He's just starting to walk and get into dangerous things now. So he's a little mischievous, but that's fun. So that's your password for this week, Elliot. All right. What we're going to do now is we're going to multiply a monomial. In this case, 3x is the monomial. And we're going to multiply it to the entire polynomial. In this case, this is a trinomial. There are 3 terms, 1, 2, 3. So we're multiplying a monomial times, in this case, a trinomial. And we're going to see what happens there. You're all familiar with distributing. So you can think of it like this, where we're just distributing. So let's take the first one. We have 3x times 2x squared. I'm going to always take care of the numbers first. So 3 times 2, that's a 6. Now what this x here means is x to the first power. I'm going to write a 1 in there just so I can see it. So if I have x to the first times x to the second, that would become x to the third power. So I've taken 3x times 2x squared, and it gives me 6x to the third. Let's move on to the next one. If I take 3x times 7x, so now we're multiplying this middle one. 3 times 7 is 21. And if I have x to the first times another x to the first up there, 1 and 1 is 2. So that becomes x squared. Anytime you have x times x, it's x squared. And then the last one, 3x times negative 1, that just becomes a minus 3x. Anything times 1 is itself. The negative just switches the sign of it. So this is your final simplified answer. 6x cubed plus 21x minus 3x. Let's move on to the next one where we got a little bit bigger exponents. We're going to start by taking 5x squared and we're going to multiply it by 10x to the fourth. Deal with the numbers first. 5 times 10 is 50. And if this is x squared and this is x to the fourth, I've got 2 x's and then I've got 4 x's. How many total x's do you have being multiplied together? That's x to the 6th. So we're done with that one. Let's move on to the second one. 5x squared times 9x cubed. 5 times 9 is a 45. Then we've got 2 x's here and 3 more x's there for a total of x to the 5th. Again, you're just adding the exponents. 2 plus 3 is 5. And the last one. We take 5x squared times a minus 2x squared. 5 times minus 2 is a minus 10. And if I've got x squared and x squared, I've got 2 x's and another 2 x's. So we're going to have a total of 4 x's. So it's x to the 4th. And this is your final simplified answer. And let's just go ahead and do one more. We have 7x to the 5th, and we're going to multiply it to this first one. We have 7 times a negative 1. There's a 1 in front, you just can't see it. So 7 times negative 1 is negative 7. And if I have x to the 5th times another x, remember that's to the first power up there, it becomes x to the 6th power. We're going to distribute further along, so distribute to the next one. 7 times 5 is a 35. And if I have x to the 5th times x to the 3rd, we've got 5 x's and another 3 x's. If you add those together, we have x to the 8th. And finally, let's distribute to the last one. 7 times negative 4 is a minus 28. We've got 5 x's here. We've got 5 more x's here. If you combine them together, we've got 10 x's. It's x to the 10th. And there's your final simplified answer. So hopefully multiplying a monomial by a polynomial isn't so bad. Just watch out for your signs, and you're just adding some exponents together. So go ahead and finish the last 3 on your own. When you are done, submit your answer to Schoology. Remember, the password is Elliott, capital E L-I-O-T-T, Elliott. There you go, and come on back, and we are going to multiply binomials together in the next video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.